Thank you.
Guys, ever the boxing match with your colleagues? Boxing matches with your colleagues? Not boxing matches or wrestling, anyway. No? Not yet? Then get ready for it. You will be there. Unless you don't use Tuist. Today, we'll dive into the Tuist, the fantastic tool that makes your friendship, keeping your friendship, and growth of your companies, and save the world too. Okay, my name's Hamin Song, but you can call me Russell. I started my career as a backend developer, but I made a transition to iOS development 1 year and 8 months ago. In today's presentation, I'm going to introduce a CLI tool called Tuist. I have to share many ideas and insights with you on how Tuist can greatly enhance the productivity in project creation and management. Oh my God, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. The goal of today's presentation is to introduce Tuist and examine how Tuist can be used with real-world code. So, what is Tuist? Tuist is a command line tool that automates the configuration and management of Xcode projects and workplaces. In a large project, managing source files can become complex due to numerous targets and modules. Tuist reduces this complexity and helps in creating and managing into scalable projects. So, why should we use Tuist? Before we discuss why we should use Tuist, I will tell you some stories that happen if you don't use Tuist. If you don't use Tuist, maintenance will become difficult. Let's say your application is small and there's no big deal with develop at the future, but your team grows and make a big success, and now your application have a lot of features, but you might think like, oh, we need to separate our features for the usability. For example, let's say you need to add biometric authentication to a project. One approach would be to add biometric authentication into the code base. But since biometric authentication can be reused in other projects as well, it would be beneficial to create a framework or module like dynamic framework. So you make a dynamic framework to deal with the feature, and you think the fancy framework will be used in other projects. But someone tap on your shoulder and say, the dynamic framework you added is not working. I have no idea why it's not working at runtime. So now you say like, oh, I forgot to embed the framework. Sorry. And the other colleague tap on your shoulder and say, the version of dependency you imported in your framework is too low. I can't import your framework on my project. And I say like, I'll upgrade the version of dependency. So there's so many mistakes in here. Let's take a look into another situation when you don't use Tuist. If you don't use Tuist, your new colleague will be confused. Let's say a new developer who you are been waiting for has joined the team. However, the existing projects have so many intertwined frameworks and projects. It takes a while to figure out which dependencies are in which projects. After some time, the new colleague developed a beautiful feature, but the project settings are different from yours, and it causes conflicts. The team is now focusing on resolving conflict rather than developing features. We've seen the potential issues that happens if you don't use Tuist. Let's take a look at how Tuist can solve this problem. First, Tuist simplifies the project maintenance. Tuist operates the code-based project configurations, reducing the complexity and maintaining consistency across your project. If there's a need to separate functionality into modules, Tuist steps in to handle the creation and management of dynamic framework. This way, you can save significant time and reduce the marginal manual errors. Take back when you added the biometric authentication to your project. If you are using the Tuist, you could separate the module easily. And the troubles you had with the runtime issues and the dependency mismatches, the Tuist prevents version conflicts and integration errors, so you no longer have to deal with those surprising runtime errors. Second, Tuist makes easier for a new colleague to understand the project. For the new developer in your team, Tuist simplifies the onboarding process. It's clear to define the project structure, enabling new members to understand the entire project swiftly. Do you remember the beautiful feature the new colleague developed before? If the project settings were managed by Tuist, it ensures consistency across different projects and prevents potential conflicts. So your team can focus more on developing features rather than on resolving conflicts. With these advantages, it's clear how Tuist can be an invaluable tool for managing and maintaining your project. It not only simplifies the project structure, but also enhances productivity by reducing conflicts and errors. Now, I expect that you have a good understanding of the importance of using Tuist. So, how can you use Tuist? In this section, I will demonstrate how to start Tuist. You're going to initialize, edit, and generate Tuist with sample code that I'm going to make. Okay. Because the Tuist is the CLI tool code, where? Hello? Anybody here? C. H. So the Tuist is a CLI tool, so we have to start with the CLI command. So let's begin with okay, let's go to the desktop right now. Top. So we are here at the desktop and make another directory to the name is called Tuist sample. Of course. Okay, yeah, I know where it is.
Yep, just mirror.
Mirroring and okay, yeah. And go to the Tuist sample and just initialize Tuist in it. Then, there's some folders that I didn't make. It's all generated by Tuist. So we're going to make edit the Tuist. So just type Tuist edit. And here we go. So there's plugin and manifest, but plugin is just extending the Tuist API. So we only use this at this time. So there is a project here. The first thing you catch your eye is these 3 imports. The first one, the project description, is the API of Tuist. So you can create project targets and schemes with this API. Second, project description helper it's helps us to make some custom method in here. Tuist project description help us further, and there is some project template, but I will explain later. Go back to the project file, and there's two variables here. The first one is local helper. Name is my plugin, but as I said, the plugin is not important here, but just pass that up. The importance, it's really important here. It's let project. Tuist, find the project variable to make the project. So in here, the project means that it's some project. The method add with 3 parameters is default method is defined on the project plus templates. So go to the app method and look into what parameter is here. The first name is the name of the project, just a name. And second, platform. Platform, it's just a platform for iOS, macOS, watchOS, and tvOS. The third one, the addition of target is the target that the projects will embed. So when you try to make a project here, then call this method, and here we make a target here. So with the make app targets methods, here's the 3 parameters also. So let's take a look. The name is just the name of target. We are in the phase of the making target, so just keep in mind here. And the platform it's the same: iOS, macOS, watchOS, and tvOS. And dependency is the dependency list that target will embed. So here we make a target with main target and test target, and it returns. So when it called, the target variable will save the target that made it in here. Understand? Right. And second, there's additional targets that is defined on flatmap, and there's a make framework targets with name and platform. So this method is for creating a framework. So when we call this method with the additional targets with Tuist sample kit and Tuist sample UI, this data will get into the name, and it makes the framework targets. So here as well, there are some main targets for the framework and the test target for the framework target. So here, the target is the dependency of the test target. So we made 6 targets with the main target and test target, and the Tuist sample kit framework target and its test target, and Tuist sample UI, the framework target and its test target. So we made 6 targets in here, and it returned project with the organization name and targets that we made. So the project here means there's a project with 6 targets, and it's the basic Tuist configuration. So let's close this project and Control C, and just type in Tuist generate. And here we go. There's 6 targets that we made. And there's 3 projects: the Tuist sample kit, and Tuist sample UI. I didn't do anything to make directory or files, but there it is. It's automated. Cool, isn't it? So let's get back to the presentation.
Somehow. Right.
Yeah, we made a Tuist sample configuration, and now I'll show you my custom Tuist code that I made for today's presentation. It's not only sample code, but it's a released application. You can download on the App Store for sure. The application name is called Talkie. Talkie is a translation application through voice recognition. Talkie has simple feature, but I designed this application with modularization. Is that on it? Oh, sorry. My mistake. Okay, let's go through. Before we dive into the Talkie Tuist code, let me introduce how Talkie is modularized. The first, Talkie is a main module that centrally manages the codes and including xcconfig and info period. Second, TuistDev. Talkie dev. It's really confused to pronounce Talkie and Tuist. Sorry. The Talkie dev is a module that refers the sources and resources of the main application. By keeping a separate environments like Talkie dev, developers can test experimental changes. This helps prevent unforeseen bugs and issues during the development phase. As a result, it contributes to maintaining stability when they deploy an actual application. Third, Talkie UI Dev. Talkie UI Dev is a module for testing UI components. This enables testing of the individual components, even for screens that require navigating through multiple screens, like views after the loading screen. It's very helpful because you can quickly test your views, the customized that you have. Fourth, Talkie Assets. Talkie Assets is the framework for managing resources of Talkie application. The logic of the resources is allocated in this framework, such as image downloads, image caching, and even localization. Finally, Voice Recognizer. Voice Recognizer is a framework dedicated to voice recognition. This handles the states of the voice recognition engine and the resulting of text conversion. Now, let's take a look at the Tuist code for Talkie and explain how Tuist can be used.
Let's go to this command.
Okay, we are here, the Tuist sample. Let's skip it. So we go to the Talkie, and there's already some files to develop. Straight, edit. And we are now in the edit mode of the Talkie. So there are some 5 projects here. Let's go first, the Talkie project. The project name is, Talkie, of course. And, platform iOS, project iOS, and there's a dependencies here that I want to embed in the Talkie project. So you can say there are some variables here I extended. I will explain later. Now I just made the make module method to make a framework for targets and schemes like that. And there's test dependencies, quick and nimble, and the custom info playlist. It's just a location of the info playlist. Let's go to the make module. So here, there's the default settings were already I made it. So bundle ID and organization name and packages are blah blah blah. So all these things make the project of the Talkie. Let's go to the Talkie dev. this project is called Talkie Dev, so of course the name is the Talkie Dev, and there's dependency like here. But there are some differences between the Talkie and Talkie Dev is includes only option. So here's the truth, and I will explain why I set this parameter and why is the truth. And third, Talkie assets is the to make this Talkie UI Dev is for the testing module for UI components. So everything is very similar with the Talkie, the configuration, but if includes only is set to false. And the Talkie assets is a framework, so there's a make framework target. It's not make module, so there's a separated by using making a project or framework. And finally, the voice recognizer is also framework, so I used make framework target. This method is not default setting, so they don't made it by Tuist configuration. I just made it. So let's take a look at the make module. Here, make module have a is include only option. It's Boolean type, and the default is false. No, it's too long to explain all of these things, but the important is include option, is include only option, is handles the way the creation project. Like here, the making target phase, if is include only is false, they don't. They will add their own sources and resources here. So I tend to all projects without the main project should refer the main project sources and resources. But if you don't want to make like this, you can make custom methods. So in here, I want to emphasize that Talkie has the ultimate freedom to make your project, your custom method, your targets like this. So one important thing that I want to explain to you is here, dependencies. Tuist handles the all dependencies integration, so I can clear the what dependencies that I want to embed the targets. So if you use the SVMI or Cartesian or the CocoaPod like that, you can just develop like that. It's really easy. And I made extension project plus dependencies. So there are some variables of the dependencies that are used in the project setting. So basically, all variables of the dependencies can use anywhere in your Tuist configuration. So here's the thing. So it's all about the Talkie's configuration. Let's go back to the presentation.
지금
It's loading now. What? Oh. All right. Then let's go to the key notes.
and where's my mouse?
We've seen how Tuist works and how Tuist has beneficial when you scale up your project. Despite the advantages of Tuist mentioned earlier, I personally found several difficulties when I had used. First, missing folder. If there are no file in the folder, it's hard to check because the project navigator doesn't show in the, it's missing, just missing. For example, if you create a resources folder passing through multiple folders, and don't put any file in it, the project navigator displayed as they don't exist. I made such mistakes like this, so I had to check 2 or 3 times whether I made the folder properly, which led a waste of time. Second, no best practice. The Tuist official page supports how to start friendly, but there's no best practice. Tuist gives us the ultimate freedom to make projects as our want, but it can be overwhelming for beginners to know where to start. For example, I didn't know how to embed the framework or how to use the resources or how to use additional sources and resources with this example. Especially when creating a modularized project, it requires a lot of effort and trial and errors. Because of these inconveniences, I felt the need for automated scripts. So I created a utility library called TuistAutoGen. It's a necessary, sorry, something just happened in my screen. Sorry. So TuistAutoGen automates the parts where mistake can be made, such as structural folder creation or naming errors. The QR code is to go to the GitHub pages of the TuistAutoGen. So if you are interested, just use this. Let's think back to Toki's Tuist code. You might think like, I don't have any idea how to structure, how to customize the Tuist basic code, like Toki's configuration code. It's so sophisticated. But if you use TuistAutoGen when you start your project, you can just make module for easily. But how? TuistAutoGen provides 4 options to offer modularized projects. Now, there's a main and is include only option, and include option, and framework option. So with this, we can make our custom Tuist configuration project quite easily. So let me demonstrate finally. This is the demonstration. So here we go. Go back to Sienna. Where am I?
Can you check if the recording is still on? Yeah, it has stopped. Can you restart one more? No, it has. I think you stopped when you unplug it.
Oh, really?
Can you restart one more?
All right. Yeah. Okay. TuistAutoGen here. As I say, you can use the 4 option main and include only and include and the framework. So how to use that? There is a shell in here. The importance is auto generator shell. So just call it auto generator .c with the main. How do I call the main application? Core and include only is the core dev, and the include is the core UI dev. Typo. Oh, sorry. Include. Then just enter it. And it asks the name of the project, just project. And everything will be set as the Tuist configuration. And there's an important thing is you should type Tuist fetch, because if you made some dependency to embed your framework, it's now auto-generated in your framework. So you have to Tuist fetch command in any changes. So here we made a Tuist project here. Where is it? Project. So the project folder here, and we can just generate here, and all is done. So all configuration is successfully set. Right. I think I'm done. Okay, go back to the keynote right here. Okay, that's all finished. Today we took a brief look at the Tuist. It would be great if you could feel how Tuist is attractive to use in your project. Enjoy your journey.
Thank you. So, do we have any questions?
I think it's really awesome,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still not sold on it. Like, why would I use Tuist where I could just use a normal Xcode? I could just create a workspace,
Mm-hmm.
use Swift Package Manager,
Mhm.
still have dependencies. I could have UI and everything separate version.
Yep.
So, what?
I mean, you mean what's the advantage of the Tuist configuration?
Yeah, why would I have this? Because what I'm confused about is when I commit stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
How, let's say I change some packages,
Mm-hmm.
and then I make a new version of my app on a separate branch,
Mm-hmm.
and then one of my colleagues pull that branch down
Mhm.
to review.
Mm-hmm.
Do they need to call Tuist generate every time? How does it update?
Okay, go first. Tuist is the code-based configuration, so there's advantages rather than the Xcode UI configuration. Have you ever feel that there's quite many conflicts when you merge into the other branches?
The main problems with Xcode that I have is usually the package.resolved
Mhm.
from Swift Package Manager.
Yep.
But I think that would still happen here
Mm-hmm.
because, like you said, it only generates like the project structure.
Mm-hmm.
So probably Swift Package Manager would still do same as it's doing now. It
Ah.
would automatically fetch new version and
Mhm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably still have that same issue.
Okay, now I know what's your problem. So the Tuist configuration supports the all dependencies management tools like CocoaPy, Carthage, SPM, with all automated configurations. So it's really easy to define with them. The three the management tool. So and it's it's just a Swift. It's not the Ruby or other the computer language. So it can quickly figure out what dependency are in which targets and framework, and in the interchain the project. That's the advantage.
Have you tried using Tuist with Xcode Cloud?
No.
I mean, I imagine that you would just have to add like a script that's called before it starts to compile
Mhm.
that would do Tuist generate.
Yep.
Because I imagine you don't actually commit. Do you commit the whole project or you just commit the Tuist configuration?
I didn't commit anything. Just if you save the Xcode project in the Tuist configuration, it's automatically saved. So when you finish your editing in the Tuist, just close it and type the Tuist generate, and it's done.
But then do you commit the generated project as well?
Yep, it's all automated. The editing you in the Xcode will reflect on when you generate the Tuist.
On GitHub, for example,
Ah.
what kind of, do you have to commit one file? Or
Yeah, do you have like a git ignore that you don't commit the main Xcode project or you commit everything? I'm just confused about the part where, so I use Tuist to generate my main project,
Mm-hmm.
right? But do I commit that main project as well? Or I add it to git ignore and I don't commit, and then like if someone else, a new colleague joins, would they call Tuist generate
Mhm.
to generate the project on their machine,
Mhm.
or they just pull the latest main branch and they have already generated? Because if that's already generated, then, and if I'm only doing Tuist once and then pushing everything to Git, yeah, I'm just a bit confused.
I know why you're confusing like problems, but so you mean it's not the point because if you use GitHub, then everyone can share your code and there's no conflict, right? Yeah. Actually, the Tuist is to you make easier to the maintenance. So the important thing I think is the Tuist help us to how can I say that? Just for a second. I have experiment that just one source on the Bitbucket or GitHub pages, and I pull it down, and there's git ignore file in it, so I can't find where the files, but it's the conflict it happened. But after I turn on the Tuist configuration, of course there are some git ignore files, of course, in the Tuist, but I can usually figure out because it's on the code base, like Tuist editing mode. So I think that's the differences between just using Xcode GUI with the cloud environment. At first I confused because I think you are talking about the Xcode cloud. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was also talking about that, but also Git.
Mhm.
I was going all over the place.
Right.
Because you need to have Git, some kind of Git, to
of
then
course.
connect to Xcode Cloud, because Xcode Cloud will trigger a
Mhm.
workflow to then create a new app. Because that's how we have it now. We have a SwiftUI app
Mhm.
using SPM, and then we commit everything to different repositories.
Mhm.
So UI and like core logic, everything's a separate package,
Mhm.
and then the main project just has reference to those different packages, right? Swift packages. And then we just have an Xcode Cloud workflow that automatically gets triggered when you push something to a release branch.
Yep.
So I was just trying to kind of figure out, because it does look like a cool idea, but I'm just trying to kind of see how it would, or if it would even improve our workflow. Because the main issue that we usually have, because we have a rule that when you make a PR, it should be around 10, maximum 10 file changes.
Yep.
So PR should be very small and very often, so we don't have much conflicts. But the problem we have is the package.resolve that Xcode always auto-generates, and that's really annoying. So yeah, I was just kind of trying to figure out, like, would it solve that? But I feel like that would still be the issue, because Xcode would still fetch Swift packages, and it would still mess up. So
Yeah, of course. The fetch is all downloads of the dependencies managing tool, but you have to note that Tuist is not for about some CI/CD or some infrastructure section. It's for the project structuring.
yeah, no, I got it now. I think I was a bit confused. I thought it's like I thought it also has like dependency management and everything in, but it is specifically a project configuration tool, where instead of doing it in Xcode and in those like XML and .project files where it's hard to see, you can just have it in a Swift file where it should be easier to see, and then we can just generate the whole project out of that. So yeah, I kind of got it now.
Great.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh, yeah,
That auto-generate script, why didn't you do it in Swift? Why is it a bash script?
If you want to make a Tuist configuration, you have to deal with the as I said in Pitfalls section, can be mistakes, like no folder. If you put file, if you don't put in the file, they're just disappeared.
Yeah.
So when I want to try to make my Tuist project I used the time around 4 or 5 hours to figure out why this not generated. You know, the Tuist error warning. I mean, what is that? The warning of the Tuist is not friendly. So they just tell us, go to the GitHub page and any question, ask me why it's not working. So there are so many issues on the Tuist GitHub page, but you know, it's really hard to get answered by them. So I think there's so many mistake points to make the the configuration project. I just made the automated script with the bash shell.
Why not?
Yeah, I think you misunderstood. I meant, why didn't you make the CLI tool in Swift? Because you can make Swift command line tools.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you make a shell script instead of a Swift script?
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant. Just the language. Was it easier just doing it in Bash?
Not. Sorry, but I can answer with the demonstrating my Tuist configuration code. Let's.
Am I asking too much? Maybe I should just give it to someone else. Because here it's just like, it's mine.
So let's go back to the Toolkit configuration.
You should try Warp, the terminal Warp. It's really cool. It even auto completes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you should try it. It's free.
So if you want to make a project here with the project plus templates and there's a method with the make module, here's duplicated variable like originally, and then called Talkie, and there's so many origin names here, so you have to use the one variable with all the files in the configuration. So if you use bash shell, you can just type in where variable should in which file. So that's the only reason that I use the bash shell. And another thing, there is Tuist stencil. That's the command, and it supports the like this. But it's another language. It's not Swift or Bash or Ruby or anything like that. But I want to say that the stencil is now supporting on Tuist.
Do I need to let it go? No, I'm giving it.
Let other people ask. Any other questions?
Thank you. It's really like useful experience for me because I'm currently making a translator app in currently Xcode.
Oh, really?
And it's really giving a lot of insights for me about the Tuist. I have two questions. Like,
Yep.
because I'm running independent app for myself, is there any advantage for managing the small apps in the Tuist by using the Tuist? I think Tuist is only used for there are a lot of dependencies and there are a lot of libraries. You can manage easily because there are versions and yeah. So is there any advantages for independent developers who is running a small app, not many dependencies, by using Tuist? And secondly, if in the big company they're using this lots of libraries and dependencies, but I'm kind of curious that because the Tuist is code based, it is kind of many people are managing Tuist. There will be more complicated and confused because it's code based. Is there any conflicts? A lot of colleagues and teammates are managing the Tuist files, so it's let's call it bite off more than one can chew. So 배보다 배꼽이 너무 크다. So it's Is there any conflicts so managing the twist files for a lot of people?
Right. I will answer you with the last question. There's conflicts in the twist configuration. You have to note that there are some conflicts, of course, in twist configuration because it's code-based. So we have a lot of conflicts. Even today, we are even using a twist configuration, but it's not happened in your main application. That's the importance. So it's really easy to troubleshooting to solve these conflicts, but it's not happens on your application, the real code base. So it's main in the how can I say like that? An aspect of the maintenance, it needs to configuration should be fixed. And what's your first question?
Oh, is there any like, advantages for managing small apps using twists?
Managing small. What do you mean?
So like, if there's a lot of dependencies and libraries in an app, it can be useful because it can be like libraries or studying codes, but not using a lot of libraries and dependencies. Is there any advantages using twists?
I think there's no differences in that aspect, but Twist is how can I say like this? I don't know for sure about this problem, but I understand your question is that just few dependencies is proper in the Twist, right? Well, Twist is just for the project structure, the configuration. So I think there's no differences. The benefit of the time consuming or stability, there's no differences, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe another point on this, even when you start a project, always have the big picture in mind. So even though you are alone, always think that, oh, I want to make a successful app, so maybe tomorrow there will be 2 people, 3 people. So yeah, I mean, you don't know, for now you're alone, but maybe in 1 year it will be a big app and you will have more people on board. So I think it's always good to use best practices like this early on, to not be like caught on some like spend a lot of time to refactoring. So yeah, any other questions? I had one. So you use Tuist in your company right now.
Yeah.
You use it also like you made this app, but you have also other apps like side project. And are you also using Tuist with them?
Yeah.
And so my question was, so did you discover Tuist by yourself, or was it some kind of requirement when at your company, and then that make you use it on your side project as well?
I think the both of them is works for me. The first, why I started the Twist configuration is because of my company's code is based on the Twist. So I was very interested because that's my first time to see the Twist configuration. It's really interesting. So I started to study about the Twist with my friends, and I can just customize the methods that I demonstrated. So yeah, that's my Twist studies I had.
And do you know the reason why your company started to use it, and were they using what were they using before using Twist, and what was the reason they moved to this new approach?
Because my company has several teams on them, so each team have their project, right? But some framework can share with those team, so it needs to make a dynamic framework or module. So how can we use that? It's really hard to separate without the twist, and all managing dependencies is really beneficial in the twist configuration editing mode. So we have to twist with to troubleshoot like that. So maybe we won't make it without the twist.
So nothing, just the one project or maybe some framework. Okay. Any?
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for the presentation. That's good. Got one question. Like you said in the beginning of the presentation, that one of the reasons why Tuist is good is like if the new developer comes and if the project is messed up, then Tuist will make it easier for onboarding, right? But what if the developer never heard about Tuist before, so it will take for him or her time to understand what a Tuist is and how does it work, and then don't you think it might take more time rather than just creating good onboarding documentation about your structure?
I think we need time to share why the twist is good or why you should be learning of the twist and how to use twist. I think it's necessary for the new developer you call it. Because as I said, I was the first time that when I come to my company, I just saw the twist configuration code, and I think like, what the hell is that? So my colleague started to introduce the twist, like the presentation I had. So what is twist? What is twist? How to use it? How to make a framework? A twist. So I think that's the start.
How much time did it take for you to get used to this?
Around 2 or 3 weeks.
Almost months, right?
Yeah.
So at least 1 month from onboarding to get.
But the time is now for the figure of what's the twist. But I developed a new feature with the twist, so there's some time for consuming.
Thanks.
No worries.
The good point now is you will be able to share this video, so the onboarding will be faster. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.